Welcome to the data collection presentation for Chicago Public Schools Assistive Technology Resource Center. We use data to inform and guide our teaching or therapy. We start by determining what we want to know, then gathering the data during our lessons based on our trial plan. We then analyze the data for trends. Are we seeing improvements? Is one activity showing more improvement than another? Once we have our analysis, we determine solutions and adjust our plan to best fit our students' needs. This is a dynamic process. We should be constantly analyzing and adjusting our plans for achieving our students' goals. We will be taking data while implementing our least to most prompting hierarchy and recording which level of prompting was necessary to elicit a response. As a review, we always start with the least amount of prompting, or natural cue, and slowly add more support, being sure to provide the student with plenty of time to process between prompts. Look at this example. The communication partner is targeting want from the student. They move through the chain of cues, increasing the support one level at a time until the response is received from the student. This would be one data point and would be recorded on the data sheet. The data sheet is set up so that the communication partner can take data each day of the week. The data sheet is intended to cover one activity that is completed each day. The target is written in the large box with the type of cue needed listed on the right. In this example, D was recorded because the student required a direct cue. As the activity and the week progress, the data sheet will become filled in. The data collector noted the type of activity the student was participating in, as well as the target, then filled in the individual data points with the type of cue required for each trial. There are spaces for 10 trials. More than 10 is certainly acceptable and can be recorded in the margins. Notes provide additional information. For example, if the student had been performing well, requiring natural or indirect prompts, then suddenly requires significantly more prompting, it would be important to note if the student was not feeling well that day or if a new setting was introduced. How do we then use the data we've collected? We will look to see if the student is making progress toward their goals. We do not require the student to be completely independent, but we do expect to see improvement. If your student is in a trial, we will ask both the teacher and speech pathologist to complete narrative reflections. How is the system improving the student's communication? What can they do now that they were not doing before the system was implemented? If the student required predominantly physical and direct prompts throughout the trial, the system may not be a good fit and alternate options can be explored. How can we let the data guide our problem solving in our IEP goals and trial plan? If your student is not making progress toward their goals, it's possible that the goal may be too difficult for them. We need to make sure that the goals we set for our students are achievable. You might consider looking at the loss framework again and adjusting your targets. However, before you change the goals, make sure that you are appropriately using the least to most prompting hierarchy. Many students need more processing time than is natural for the communication partner. It is also possible that your student is immediately successful and independent. If independence is the baseline, we still would not see progress and need to challenge the student more. Again, the goals could be adjusted, but we could also target different environments, like math instead of free choice, or we could target different communicative functions, such as social phrases instead of requesting. Expanding the length of utterance to combining 3 to 4 symbols instead of 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 symbols is another way to keep improving your students' communication. Other teams struggle with student participation and motivation. While academic tasks are not always motivating for students, it is important to have at least one activity that is truly motivating. A fun, new activity can be a great way to obtain joint engagement. If the student is still struggling to participate, try a different communication partner or a different environment. Maybe a quiet corner versus a tabletop, or a preferred paraprofessional instead of the teacher as a communication partner. Do not forget the proximal zone of development. If the student is at the single word level, we don't want to be targeting responses that are so far above their abilities that it feels impossible for them. Make sure that the target responses are achievable. And lastly, even though throughout this presentation we have discussed eliciting and recording target responses for data collection, don't forget that all communication partners should always be modeling symbol-based communication via aided language stimulation. For additional questions, please contact the Assistive Technology Resource Center.